Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to our webinar, Resourcefulness, Achieve More with Less. I hope after this little teaser of Christmas jazz, everyone is in a good mood and you're ready for a very exciting webinar. My name is Nora, and I'm pleased to be your host for this webinar. My passion is to unleash the potential of organizations and people by tapping into the future of work and creating more productive, adaptive, human, and joyful ways of working. I'm very excited you're joining us today, and I'm looking forward to an extremely insightful session. Before we kick off, I would like to get a sense for who is here with us today. So I invite you to check in our chat by sharing where in the world you're dialing in from today, and when do you feel most resourceful? We've got sunny San Antonio, Texas, New Zealand. We've got BC, Canada, wonderful. We've got London, Missouri. Resourceful when I'm rested. Ooh, I love that answer. When I get up in the morning. So time of day plays a role. Most resourceful when facing challenges. Ooh. 6 a.m. in the morning. So there is a theme around morning time when we feel very resourceful. There is also Brittany, who is more of a afternoon, evening person. Nice. After spending time outdoors. Beautiful. Yeah, nature has this effect, I find, as well. When colleagues are at their best and loving life. Beautiful answer. Early morning. Okay, I would say probably the majority of people are feeling most resourceful in the morning time. That's so interesting. Thank you very much, everyone, for checking in. And it's great to have you in our webinar today. This is actually our 5th webinar of our new webinar series called LEAP, Igniting the Future of Resource Management. Our goal is to reinvent the traditional approach to resource management and unpack fresh and inspiring perspectives for the community, for you, on how this could look like. We aim to empower resource managers and business strategy leads by sharing actionable advice that makes you better, both professionally and personally. And also through that, we're hoping to help elevate resource management as a function by increasing the visibility on the positive organizational impact that resource management can have inside an organization. And we're running the webinars on a monthly basis. You might also be wondering who's facilitating this program. Run is a resource management software solving the very challenge of matching work to be done and finding the best suited people for the job. Next up, I would love to introduce to you the star of our webinar, Jeff Koziatek. And I'm almost certain I pronounced it right. I hope so. We trained this up front. Jeff is both an artist and an entrepreneur. He's such a wonderful and fascinating person. I'm very excited and honored he's joining us today. His services include one-on-one coaching on performance, inspirational keynotes, energizing workshops. And how he got there is quite interesting. He worked in the entertainment industry for over 25 years, where he produced award-winning films and national touring shows across the United States. He acted for film and television. He owned a complete event management company and performed over 5,000 shows all over the United States. So Jeff leverages his professional background with a proven process to help leaders do more of what they want, less of what they don't want, and love their results. Individuals and organizations hire him to overcome stress, doubt, burnout, increase productivity, navigate transitions. And what I find very lovely is Jeff has been married for over 18 years now. He and his wife have two lovely children. And the older they get, the more resourceful he and his wife have become, doing more with less. And just a fun fact to share with you, Jeff ran a half marathon while juggling. So I'm pretty sure there's nothing he can't do. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. There's a lot I can't. And I love my wife, and my kids are very wonderful in the morning when they are rested.
Yes, and resourceful. Wonderful. So just a heads up to you, to our audience, we'll use the last 15 to 20 minutes for Q&A. So make sure you capture any questions that come up during our session in the Q&A section here in Zoom. And feel free to use the chat to share any thoughts and insights you might have. Just make sure to send to everyone, not just to the speakers, so everyone can benefit from your thoughts. Wonderful. So let's kick off. Jeff, super excited to have you here. Let's start off by looking at the very word of resourcefulness in the context of today's work environment. How do you define resourcefulness?
I define it as jazz, or in theater terms, improvisation. It's all about doing the best you can with what you have in the moment. It's just that simple.
Do you happen to do improv theater?
I used to. I used to do a lot of improv, and I used to do a lot of street performing. And you have to really think on your feet, especially when you're out in a street setting, when anything can happen and anything can walk by, and usually does. You know, to be able to play off of your environment and play off of outside variables that you have no control over, and still be able to deliver in that setting a show that is entertaining and engaging and worth the audience's time, worth causing them to stop and watch. So yeah, very much improv.
Yeah.
Well, and like jazz too, right? Because in music, you learn the notes, you learn the scales, you learn all of this, you learn how other people play their songs, you learn patterns. And then when you go out to play jazz, you then take all of that information and just put it together however you want. You start playing with it and coming up with new ways to move forward. So you're doing the best you can with what you've got in the moment, improvising, playing jazz, doing the best you can with what you got.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing your very own definition, which resonates a lot with me. And Jeff, when we look at this area of resourcefulness, why is it more critical now than ever before? How do we end up overloaded in the first place?
That's a great question. And we were just talking about this with my in-laws the other day. You know, right now we live in a time in human history where we are inundated with all kinds of data all the time, right? I mean, with our phones, we're available 24/7. Work is available 24/7. I'm getting all kinds of messages about my kids from their school all the time. So you've got demands for our time are at an all-time high, demands for our time and our attention. Meanwhile, resources are down, as everybody on this call probably knows. Finding talent is difficult, and then the available raw resources we have access to has changed. And because of the demand for our attention, our time to actually pour into something has shifted. So I think now more than ever is a time to shift away from focusing on what do we have available and what do we not have available to how can we make the most of what we've got? How can we get creative and think outside the box and find a way forward?
Beautiful. It's almost an irony, right? Technology was supposed to save us time, and yet right now it's the biggest source of distraction and almost eating away our resources in one sense.
Right. Well, if only there was a software out there that could help people manage better.
That would be brilliant.
Run something more effectively. And then if they named it, something like, I don't know, maybe just shooting from the hip here, like run, then we could actually harness technology and do more with less.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Just a thought.
I love that. And could you share a very personal story of your own from your experience where resourcefulness turned a rather challenging situation into success for you?
I can, but before that, I'd really like to address one of the reasons why we end up doing less with more in the first place.
Let's
Is
do
that
this.
okay?
Absolutely.
Because I mean, we seem to be stuck there, and then we pick up what Carol DeWitt calls a fixed mindset. I refer to as showing up as the challenger, and we're very focused on just what we have to work with, this scarcity approach, and we end up fixating on that, and we miss all of the other opportunities and all the other resources that are coming our way because we're so tunnel focused on this. I believe that we do that because there are three things at play. There's foundation, and I wrote a whole bunch of notes because I wanted to make sure we brought the most value to your audience today. So if I'm looking over here, that's why. But
You're being resourceful.
I am. I am. But it really comes down to three things. It's foundation, the foundation that we stand on, and then the internal and the external on trust and clarity. Like those are the three things that usually trip us up. And by foundation, this is the core of what I do as a coach and what I do as a speaker. I have found throughout my career in entertainment, crossing all these different social boundaries, and performing international. Thank you, Canada. I see you, Toronto. That's where that was. Everywhere I went, everyone had to answer the same two questions. And it's, what is my worth and where does it come from? And I've found that most people, I use the word worth. Some people use the word significance or identity. I have found that most people think that they are not worth on a scale of 0 to 10. They don't think that they're a 10. They think that they're lacking something, and they have to show up to the table and improve themselves or get it or earn it by something outside of themselves. And they usually look for that in their performance, their property, their appearance, their circumstance, or their relationships. And this is a problem, Nora. Ask me why.
Would you elaborate on why, perhaps?
Thank you for asking. I'm glad you asked. If we're looking for our worth and significance outside of ourselves, it's never going to be enough, ever. We're going to run out, and we're constantly overreaching, and we're looking out here. We're not in the moment. We're trying to prove ourselves by saying, look at our amazing resume. Smell my library. It's like rich mahogany and leather-bound books. I'm a big deal. Or we look at our property and showcase everything that we own. Or we look at our relationships and say, this is who I know. I know this person. I know that person. Or look, I am a father or a mother or a sibling. Or we look at our circumstances and say, this is everything I've had to overcome. And so our focus is out here, and it's about getting more, and it's about protecting what we have. And when we're doing that, we're not being resourceful, finding a way forward. We're not trying to get creative, and it's not about how can we manage and steward our resources. Now it's just about get. And so with our focus out here, we get really, really busy. And then we start celebrating and glorifying busy. Look at how busy I am. And the more busy we get, the less we actually get done. And then the quality drops. So that's the foundation. And then the trust bit. A lot of times, internally, are we trusting ourselves or not? If we don't trust ourselves, we end up in analysis paralysis, and we end up doing less with more. If we don't trust ourselves, we set up all of these redundancies that end up taking more time. And then trusting other people. If we don't trust other people, we're not empowering our teams. And if we're not empowering our teams, who's doing the work? Like, I end up doing the work because I'm not empowering my team. And if I'm doing the work, if I'm micromanaging, then I'm definitely not getting more done. And now I'm consumed by the problem and I'm not leading and looking for solutions and looking at what's coming down the pipe. And then last but not least, clarity, internally and externally. Am I being clear with myself on my expectations, on what needs to be done? If we are not clear, if it's vague, then we end up just really busy jumping all over the place. But if we're clear on those expectations, then we can focus our efforts, and now we're gaining more momentum. We're doing more with less. If it's vague, then we're doing a whole lot, but we're not making any kind of progress. And then with our teams, are we being specific with them? Are we making clear to them what their expectations are? I was I was just working with a guy the other day, and I'm asking for something, he's asking for something, and there was a miscommunication of clarity around that. And so a lot of time has passed, and neither one of us are happy, and we're not getting a lot done. We're getting a little bit done and a whole lot of time. So trust, clarity, and foundation. That's usually what trips us up into doing less with more. But if we can fix those three areas, then we can do more with less. So
it's a beautiful framework. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thanks for the time.
Yeah. Can you maybe help us understand the foundation piece? Sounds to me like moving from an external focus to an internal focus.
Yeah.
Not seeking for more on the outside, but really focusing inwards. How might we support ourselves with that shift? It sounds easy, but it's a fundamental shift, right?
It is a fundamental shift. One would say it is a core shift so that you could live a core authentic life. like the name of my company. That shift is really hard. In the States, there's a big celebration on performance and what people can do. And in the growing global economy, I'm seeing this all over the place. I believe that it is a choice. Albert Einstein said years ago, there's only two ways to look at life, or two ways to live life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is as though everything is. If nothing is a miracle, somewhere deep down inside everybody, there's this desire to be enough, to be worthy, to be significant, to matter, to be on a scale of 0 to 10, a 10. And so if nothing is a miracle and we want that, then we push hard to prove ourselves. And the shift is now on the resources, not on being resourceful. But if we choose to live our life as though everything is a miracle, well, then we don't have to prove anything. Then we don't have to earn more to make ourselves look good. We can just show up fully present in the moment. And when we're doing that, then we drop the judgment stick. When we do that, we're less focused on what we have. Now we're able to get back on our vision. We're able to make decisions based on our values, and we're able to pivot and adapt on a foundation that is solid, made out of concrete, not ice or gravel or sand. And I don't know if we can get there on our own. I really believe that we need an outside perspective to help us shift that and to help reveal those blind spots. An outside perspective like a coach or a mentor or a counselor initially.
The idea of looking at life as a miracle really resonates with me. I think that's a beautiful mindset shift that can definitely help. Thank you very much for sharing that. I wonder if you could share a personal story from your experience where you have used clarity and or trust to help you with a challenging situation.
So years ago, I was producing a film called Mask. We had, it's a 3-part series. It's on my website, coreauthenticity.com/resources. But this video series, I was working with a guy named Drew. He was doing all of our music composing and recording. He did a great job on part 1. He did a great job on part 2. And there we were composing music for part 3. And I got really micromanaging with him. I totally micromanaged his creative process and started saying, no, this is what the music needs to do here, and this is the beat, and this is the beat, and we got to hit this. And then he was pushing back, so my trust started to erode. My clarity got off track, and I got really granular rather than being clear with the overall vision for the music. I got really clear about the individual pieces. And then I started to do it for him. And he got so angry, so angry. And then I got angry. And I'll never forget, we had this one conversation, and he's frustrated, I'm frustrated. And then I just realized in the moment, like, wait a minute, I'm telling you how to do your job.
Right.
Wait a minute. Like, I'm not being clear about the vision for this. So I backed up. I owned my stuff. I apologized for telling him how to do his job. I affirmed that I had deep appreciation for his musical talents, and that I trusted him with this. I got really clear on the vision for the music track in part 3, and then I backed off. And I also checked my foundation, because in that moment, I started to see my worth as my performance. And the performance in this case was the film, and what the film looked like, what the film sounded like, and what it would do long term. So I checked myself, I pulled back. My performance of the mask is coming from me, but it isn't my identity. And I trust Drew, and Drew, here's where we're going. And I backed off, and in no amount of time, it seemed like it was just like the next day, here you go. And it was exactly what I wanted.
Nice.
And more, because I had empowered him to bring his creativity to the stage. And so in that moment, we were able to shift and get a lot done very, very quick.
Powerful. So what I'm hearing from you is it might be worth for everyone who's listening to you, whenever we're challenged, when we're challenged in a challenging situation, to just pause for one moment and reflect on those 3 key aspects of foundation, trust, and clarity, and just check in with ourselves. Are we on track with those, or is there potentially a lack of clarity, a lack of trust, a lack of foundation? And yeah, that's a great framework for just pausing and checking in with ourselves. Nice.
I think when we're standing on intrinsic worth, that we are enough. On a scale of 0 to 10, I am a 10 regardless of what happens to me and regardless of what I do, which is a whole other conversation. But if I'm standing on that foundation, that's rock solid. Now I'm grounded. So when change happens, when my resources become more abundant or they become more scarce, I'm not caught off guard, because I'm centered and I'm grounded. If I'm looking for my worth and significance outside of myself, then I'm caught reaching when things change. I'm caught reaching when my responsibilities grow. And so being able to stop in the moment, be like, wait a minute, am I showing up as the challenger, reaching out to try to prove myself, or am I showing up as the champion enough? And where is my trust, and how clear am I being? That's good.
Well put. That resonates a lot. And would it be fair to say, whenever I'm really trusting in myself, it is easier for me to also trust others that I'm working with?
I would say that is more than fair. I don't believe we can trust somebody else if we're not trusting ourselves. That's hard. I also don't believe we'll see worth in someone else beyond what we see in ourselves. We might value what they can do or what they have or what they've gone through, but we won't see worth in them as a human being any more than what we see in the mirror. So you're spot on. It starts with us and then goes out from there.
Yeah.
You know, going back. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. That sounds very sensible. And thank you for sharing that personal story of yours. I think that really made the point very clear. I wonder, in your coaching, as you have so much experience, what are some of the most common misconceptions about doing more with less that you encounter?
Well, it's the mindset, right? A lot of times we dismiss gratitude and we think that that's frou-frou, or that's just something we do once a year, um, or we just don't think we don't have time for that because our challenger is showing up and trying to get more. So the focus is not on what we have. Um, a lot of times people will uh, adopt a power mindset versus a growth mindset. Um, I say mindset. The power model is really what we call it, is where we look at things as right or wrong, good or bad, perfect or not. And if we're using the power model and then we make a mistake, and everybody's going to make a mistake at some point. I mean, I've made several speaking mistakes just on this call. But if we get focused on what didn't go right, what wasn't 100% perfect, we start shooting holes in the boat, and now we're sinking, and now we have to bail the water out, and now we're doing we're making less progress and spending more energy and effort. So the shift from the power model to the growth model of, is this working or not working, taking the judgment off it, recognizing that, we are going to make mistakes, but the mistakes don't define us. We can see the mistakes for what they are, not who we are. And so by showing up as a champion, we can use the growth model and keep moving forward. A lot of people will come into coaching carrying a power model. I know I came into coaching with a power model. And if I'm not rested, and if there's several other things depleting my energy, my challenger wants to show up, and the power model can seem really comforting. The problem is the power model doesn't move the ball forward, and definitely sucks up our resources. For example, if I can share one other personal example.
Please do. Yes.
So going back to the mask film that we shot, we filmed part one in, I think it was 2012, 2013. Then we filmed part two in February of 2015. And in February in Missouri, back in 2015, it got really cold and we get a lot of snow. And so this one day, we had one day to shoot it. And actually we had 2 days. It was a Saturday and Sunday. But we needed everybody there both days. And Friday night, we got this massive snowstorm. So Saturday morning, as I'm driving in, everything is set for this weekend. We cannot reschedule. We lost so many actors and so many of our crew because they just couldn't make the drive. They were snowed in, they were stuck. And yet we still had to shoot the film. My resources dropped dramatically in terms of who I could put on camera and who was helping me behind the scenes. And we lost time because it took everybody a lot longer to get to set. So there we are, less resources, less time, because we had less people show up, we had less masks, we had all of this stuff. However, in that moment, it was really clear what my foundation was as a producer. And I shared that with everybody else. It was very clear in terms of clarity and specificity about what our vision was for the film. This is what we're doing, and this is why we're doing it. And because I had taken the time to hire the right key heads for each of the departments, everybody was bought into the vision for the film. Everybody was bought into why we were doing it, and we all shared similar values. And so in that moment, when we had to do a whole lot more with a whole lot less, because we had that shared values, because we had the shared vision and mission, because I was specific with what needed to get done, and we had already prepped out, here's our plan for today. It was very, very clear. I was able to step back and trust the team to step up and run each of their departments. And then guess what happened?
It was amazing.
people felt empowered to step out of their departments and help the other departments without grumbling. Like they just took on more work because they were bought into where we were headed. And now we had less people doing so much more. And it keeps going because we got done faster ahead of schedule.
Wow.
I know. And people had I had bought all of this food. People worked through lunch. Now, I'm not like promoting like don't eat. I'm just saying that in this particular situation, everybody was so bought in, they were so focused, and all the energy was going there. They were pulling from resources inside themselves that they didn't know that they had. And when the whole thing was done, several people said, keep my check and apply it to part 3. I mean, like we were doing so much more with less because of the foundation, because of the trust, and because of the clarity. It was awesome.
Powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And if I consider our audience here, we've got a number of resource managers, business strategy leads, project managers. I wonder if you could help us unpack, explore what you would recommend for a team or organization as a first step, really, to look to enhance our resourcefulness. What can we do quite practically?
Practically, I'm a big values guy. I'm certified coach with the Values Conversation. I'm certified with the John Maxwell team. John Maxwell is also all about values. I believe that all of our decisions come from our values, whether we know them or not. If we don't know our values, we make a decision and we try to grow a culture and we just roll the dice and hope for the best. And we hope that we feel good after the fact. If we know our values ahead of time, we can feel confident before the results even come in. So for an organization to do more with less, we have to be clear on our values. And I recommend 4 to 5 values so they're easy to memorize, and then clarify what those values mean. Because if you just put the values up on the wall and you don't refer to them, you don't explain what that means in terms of expected behavior, then they're not going to do anything. We have to identify what the 4 to 5 driving values are of the culture and then what that means. That way, everybody is really clear, right, on clarity, really clear about what's expected of them, whether the boss is in the room or not. And then on top of that, getting really clear about vision and mission. I mean, it sounds like, yes, Jeff, I know that's obvious. But how many of our organizations actually bring that up repeatedly? I mean, not just once at the annual meeting, but refer back to values at the weekly meetings, refer back to vision and mission and why we're doing this at the weekly meetings, or even in daily check-ins. It's like they say, a rocket fails its way to the moon because it knows where it's going. I mean, it spends most of the time off course, but it can land at its destination because it knows exactly where it is. A self-guided missile hits its target because it's clear on the target, spends most of the time off the flight path. For an organization to succeed and be more resourceful, we have to be really clear about what that bullseye is. And we have to be really clear about the values that drive us as an organization. Along with that, when you have clear values and expectations, now we've got metrics. Now we've got metrics that we can say, hey, this is what we're hiring for. This is what we're firing based on. And this is what we are acknowledging within the organization. If we are promoting that, when people live out our values and we highlight that, then we're going to get more of that in return. If we're saying that these are our values and these are our expected behaviors, but then we go and celebrate something that is not, then we're going to be shooting holes in the boat. And that's not helpful.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And it also reminds me of Simon Sinek's model of start with why. As soon as you have the clarity on why you exist as an organization. It just unleashes such an incredible energy, right? As for your example with the snow and only having a very limited amount of people at the set, right? It just demonstrates, the magic, really, the energy being released once you all gather behind a common purpose. It's beautiful.
Well, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to remind our audience, please feel free to capture any questions in the Q&A as we are coming to an end of our interview. Please make sure you leave any interesting questions in the Q&A so that we can cover that in one moment. Jeff, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, when I had my entertainment company, I was running it with a business partner. We fell into business together because we were performing buddies, and then we started double and triple booking ourselves because we weren't very good at business and time management. And so that led us to become a booking agency. So we started booking other people to go out on gigs that we couldn't go out on. And then that led us to become an event management company because now people were asking us to take care of entertainment and food and decorations and all that stuff. And then we were being asked to produce videos, and then we were writing shows that toured all over America. And then we were started to get into commercials and things like that. So the company grew very organically, and because of that, we did not have a clear why.
Yeah,
There was there was no intentional drive for the company. As a result, we said yes to everything. We rarely said no to anything, and we found ourselves incredibly busy. At that time, I ended up getting shingles in my late 20s because of the stress. My body just physically did not enjoy that at all. And on top of that, my business partner and I, we had different values. And neither one of us knew what those values were, but it affected how we showed up and the foundation that we stood on when we made business decisions. And so because we did not have clear values, because we did not have a clear vision and mission, we were all over the place. And we spent probably 80 to 90% of our time doing the work that generated maybe 20% of our income. And it took us years before we realized, oh, maybe if we focus down here, we would actually make a bigger impact, and it would take less of our time. So, when I started working with a coach and figured that out, not only personally, I brought it to my business, and now my business with Core Authenticity. It made all the difference.
Yeah. Wow. Very nice. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing. Just before we kick off the Q&A, just one short question. Can you share an actionable takeaway that our audience can immediately implement following this webinar?
The immediate thing would be, it is really hard to be resourceful if you have a fixed mindset, if you think that you are unworthy. So the first thing I would recommend is just a shift of perspective, to see your behavior for what it is, not who you are. And if we can cut that umbilical cord, then we're able to step back and take a more honest assessment of what's going on and how we got here, and then we can make changes to move forward. But as long as we're tied to thinking that we are our performance, or we are our mistakes or our circumstances, we're going to be stuck, and trying to be resourceful is going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah, well put. So, what I'm hearing here is to stop every now and then, to self-reflect, to check in regards to our behavior, if that's actually serving us or not, what underlying beliefs we hold about ourselves. So, I think the mindfulness movement is all about just that, reflecting myself and what I assume about myself, and checking in if that's actually true. Yeah.
Self-awareness.
Yes. Beautiful. So dear audience, feel free to jump into the Q&A section of Zoom webinar, put your questions in there. Feel free to also upvote any questions that you think are especially interesting. And I'm going to kick off with Karen, who is wondering about what are some examples of hiring metrics based on values? Could you share some hiring practices that are value focused, Jeff?
Yeah, well, that's going to be different for every organization, right? So for me, we just launched Communicate to Succeed Academy with my buddy Dallas Amston. Dallas is a guy that shares my values. So our C2S Academy is built on 4 values, and those values are collaboration, collaboration, excellence, generosity, and prosperity. So we're inviting people to join the academy if they share those values. In terms of generosity, how are they? We expect everybody to show up and give. If they're not generously giving amongst each other, sharing knowledge, sharing opportunities, sharing insights, then those are people that we would like not to join the academy, because that's the culture we're trying to grow. And we know that will lead to incredible growth and development for the people in the academy. Similarly, with the collaboration, we expect people to work together, to engage in our webinar trainings and things like that. So we're inviting people in that are going to participate. If people just want to show up and take and receive, that is not somebody that we're looking for. Similarly with excellence, we're not looking for perfection. We are looking for excellence. So we're looking for people to take ownership for their stuff and grow and move forward. So those are some of the behaviors that we're looking for. What are they reading? Are they listening to podcasts? Are they checking out the Run monthly webinars? How are they growing and developing? Because that's what we want. So I would say that each organization has to get really clear on what their values are and get really clear on what those expected behaviors are. And then that's what we look for. I know personally, I'm a big communication guy. I value communication a lot. So when I went to hire my assistant, I said, listen, I understand that things are going to come up and we might miss deadlines and things like that, but and I just need you to communicate with me. Let me know if we're going to miss a deadline. Let me know where we're at. That way we can do something with that. So if somebody is not communicating with me, then I can't work with them, because it's hard to address a situation that you don't know about.
Yeah, totally. So what I'm hearing from you, Jeff, which resonates a lot, is be clear, first of all, on the values that are important to you, 4 to 5, not more, so you can remember them. And then really translate those values. Mostly values are one word, right? Maybe 2.
Yes.
So really translate that into what are some of the behaviors that would demonstrate that value, and which behaviors would counteract towards that value, so that you have more clarity on how those values would actually come to life. And then, almost creating criteria based on those values for your hiring.
Exactly. And
very nice.
And those definitions are going to be different for each person. So I would recommend Karen taking a look at the values that they have in their organization. And what does that mean to Karen? What does she need in her organization? What does the leadership need and expect? And then get really clear about that.
Yeah, nice. Beautiful, thank you. I'm just going to look into the Q&A. Please feel free to upvote the questions that you like so I can help pick those. Michelle asked a question. So she is appreciating you sharing a vulnerable story of your own about managing Drew. Do you have any specific advice for the Drews out there, but whose managers may not have the self-awareness to realize they're micromanaging their team? Great question, Michelle. Thank you.
How to manage up? Okay, so as a coach, I'm really not all about advice. And I know that that's kind of why we're here. So let me throw out a suggestion. Something to think
Sure,
about.
that works.
Not a do this, take two of these and then call me in the morning. um I would recommend in a situation where if you find yourself in a position like Drew, and you're getting frustrated, and the the boss is getting frustrated, or the manager is getting frustrated, I would follow Nora's suggestion of taking a pause, stepping back, and then regrouping and going back to the shared values, vision, and mission of the organization. That's a way of reclaiming common ground,
Mm,
and to be able to
powerful.
back up and take the emotions out of it that are causing mess. And once we step back, then we can reassess and figure out what we really need to do to move forward.
That's so
Um,
powerful.
yeah, and feelings themselves, I should elaborate. They're not bad. I don't believe that there are any negative or positive feelings out there. Feelings are just feelings. And even more than that, feelings can let us know what underlying core needs, or wait for it, core values are not being met,
Yeah.
or that are being met. So if we step back and refocus on that, the shared values, the shared vision and mission, then we can say, oh, well, I'm getting really frustrated. You're getting really frustrated because this value is getting distorted, or it's not being met at all. How can we move forward and meet that goal, through this lens, and your responsibilities.
What I love so much about that approach is you're not telling your boss he or she is wrong, but you're providing a space for him or her to check in regards to the mission we're both on, and are we in best service of that joint mission, right? So it's a very humble
Right.
way of helping someone self-reflect, and it might not work out, right? And then yeah, what might have happened is you were not clear enough on the common values to begin with, and then that's a good starting point.
Yes. And this goes back to what I teach about communication, and that the first goal of communication is to offer safety. We
Mm.
offer safety first, then we
Mm,
share our ideas and understanding.
amazing.
If you are in a spot like Drew and I, Drew's challenger was out, my challenger was out, and we were going at it. We had to
Yeah.
step back and take the challengers out of it and go back to our champions. The only way that I could do that was to come back to the shared values, vision, and mission for the film,
Mm,
and then affirm what I see in Drew. And in
mm,
that moment, somebody has to take the first step in that. In this particular case, it was me. And so I offered that affirmation to Drew so that he could then accept my offer of safety, and then his challenger could go away and his champion could come back, and then we find a way forward. It's really important to remember that it is just an offer. So if you are a Drew and you're wanting to communicate with your lead, with your manager, whoever that is, we can offer the safety. We can go back to the shared values, vision, and mission. But at the end of the day, our manager is not an object to be manipulated. Our manager is a person, and so all we can do is make the offer, and for them to either receive and accept or not. As long as and the way we make that offer, values and vision. Yeah.
thank you very much. I
Mhm.
also would like to pick Kmart's question. How are
Mhm.
young professionals, sometimes without formal training in an expanded role, best able to navigate the expanded demands to do more and perform better every day, sometimes without any end in sight? So, what advice do you have for young professionals?
Young professionals expected to do more, uh, and keep it going indefinitely. Um, I think that a lot of that comes down to expectations.
Mhm.
When people show up and say that's not my job, that's outside my job description, uh, that usually comes from a place of performance-based worth, and it's not driven by the values and the vision and mission. Um, if we're asking somebody to step outside of what we hired them for to take on more, that becomes really difficult when our performance is who we are. So helping to affirm the human being in them, helping to get them on board to the common ground would be a way through that. And I would also suggest getting really clear on expectations, if possible, right out of the gate. And then if not possible, then and things get added to their plate as we go, then it's about the transparency. Because sometimes when our challenger shows up and we're feeling like we have to do more, it can be really easy to see everything as personal, right? It's all against me. I'm being attacked. It's easy to see everything as permanent, like it will never, ever change. And we can see everything as pervasive. It's not just with Joe, it's also with Sarah, and it's also with Marquita, and it's also with Trevor, and it's all these people. And in that, the employee, I thought he said millennial, the young professional can feel like it's all about them, and then they just freak out and they want to jump ship and go someplace else. So if we can help them with appropriate transparency and vulnerability, so to help navigate, it's not personal, it's not permanent, it's not pervasive. These are expectations. These are shared values and vision and mission. This is what needs to be done. You are on the team. We're doing this together. This is not happening at you. We're doing this with you.
Nice.
That'd be a suggestion.
Awesome. And I feel personally, young people are especially good at stepping out and creating awareness within themselves. So that's also very, very good. I think we can learn from each other, all generations. Jeff, thank you so much for answering our questions in the Q&A. I have a last leap of the day for you. What inspires you in the space of the future of resource management personally?
Wow. What inspires me? I think systems. I know we didn't talk about this beforehand, but systems like Run. I am not a systems guy. I am not a process guy. I am a people guy. I understand mindset and core beliefs, why people do what they do. But when it comes down to systems and stuff, that's not my strength. That is not my strong suit. And using technology to help us with the systems so that we can do more with less is really, really exciting. And AI is part of that. So I'm pumped. There's no way that I would be able to do my business the way I do it now 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And the possibilities of how I'm going to be able to run my business in 20 years from today, it's really fun. Yeah.
Wow. There's a lot coming our way. Very exciting. I agree. Thank you so much for that answer. I would like to also share with you what's happening next. So we have a fantastic webinar lined up for the month of January. In January, we will be focusing on resource management mistakes not to repeat in 2024. It will be happening on the 10th of January, and we're excited to welcome Martha Arias, Senior Director Resource Management at Jobs for Future, and Gary Ward, Director Global Resource Staffing at Guidewire Software. So thank you very, very much, Jeff, for a phenomenal session. What I really appreciated was your vulnerability, your authenticity, also, your perspective on what it takes to be resourceful and sharing the 3 cornerstones on foundation, clarity, and trust. Personally, I found that very enriching. So thank you very much, Jeff, for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been great.
Yeah, you're wonderful. And I would love to finish off by asking our audience, what are you taking from today's session? What has inspired you? What are you taking into your next few days based on what you heard today? Being grounded, it's so necessary. Karen, I totally agree. Yes, there will be a recording, Zuheb. We will send it out after the session. Pedro, good to see you back. Aligning values. I think that was such a big part, and I completely agree, Pedro. So being clear on values, and then when something gets off track, coming back to the values we agreed upon. A moment to reflect on the value side and how that can support my relationship with colleagues. Yeah, it's supporting that shift away from identities. And I think you talked about the challenger mindset, right? Away from that and towards what are we here to achieve together, the champions inside each of us, right? How can we empower those? Beautiful. Anything else that you're taking away that resonated? Hope for a better resource management with authentic leaders like Ron and Jeff. Thank you, Kmart. Very kind. Wonderful. Well, thank you all very much. Yes, I think that's a very good point. Thank you very much, Jeff. It's been a pleasure. And thank you very much, everyone who joined us today. Personally, I'm taking away so much inspiration. So I think that was a fantastic way to end 2023 with a lot of insights and inspiration. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your year and a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.